Welcome everyone, I am Mustang of Battlecore and the Core Knights, here to bring you today my deck profile, Black Dorugoramon. So my take on the Dorugoramon Black deck is a little bit different from everyone else. Most everyone will play, Alpha Mons and a couple of other, things that are in it that is not what you see right now on the screen. Now it's only because a lot of people like Ben, Max DePera, and a couple of other streamers know that I build my decks a little bit unorthodox, and it's mostly because it fits my playstyle. And not only that, I really don't like to mainstream my builds. Even when a new set comes out, I try my best to refrain from looking at deck builds on YouTube or any other source until I get a feel myself on how that the cards are supposed to be played. Now, that helped me be developed into the player I am today. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I feel very confident in my skills, including with this deck, that I can take a tournament or so, whether it's locals or a little bit bigger. So today I want to say, I am a defensive style person. So my deck is built around being a little bit more defensive. And the recursion rate of being set back, from either being Gaia Forced or Wavering Breath or something like that, like a disruption, the combat potential with this build has been great. I've played it so far against a couple of BT7 decks, such as Yellow Hybrid, Blue Hybrid. I even played a variant of Gobblebon and Blue Hybrid mixed. I also played against Kaiser Greymon. The deck has been proven to be very, very defensive and versatile. So, I say this every time I make a video. I'll try my best not to spend a lot of time explaining, my thoughts on things, but it ends up being pretty long, like 20, 25 minutes, sometimes 30-minute video. But it's only because I want to give you guys how, my brain works, the thought process behind my decisions, and so on and so forth. They may not be the best. You may find that, tweaking this to your liking is, the best idea. Or you may say, hey, your style of how you built the deck is just not for me, and that's totally fine. Everyone builds decks, how they like it, whether it's, net decking, so it's consistent for them and they know it's proven to work. That's totally fine. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So with the Pugimon, it's very self-explanatory. His skills on deletion, you scry the top card of your deck, and if it's a black Digimon, you add it to your hand. This allows me to basically get something back when my Digimon dies. If you look at all the Digitamas, when I lose something, I get something back, and I like that feeling. I like that resource management that I'm able to do, with the deck. So when it comes to the next rookie, Dorugoramon, he's a new rookie that just got released in the new set BT7, and his skill is once per turn, when one of your effects places a Digivolution card on this Digimon, you draw one card. So one of the things that X Antibody do is that they place X Antibody cards from your hand into the bottom of the Digivolution sources. And then, skills are able to be active, whether it's to destroy something or gain any other benefits. And the perfect thing about Dorugoramon is that one card that's leaving your hand going into the source, typically you won't get that back. It's basically a -1. Well, that Dorugoramon, to me, basically just allows you to do a swap. You put one card from your hand into the source, and then you're able to draw another card, keeping your hand count practically the same. That card is amazing. Going into Toy Agumon. Toy Agumon has always been a staple in all black decks, mostly because how I look at it is that Reboot is a very, very good defensive mechanism. One of the things about Digimon right now is that it's really an offensive type game, especially right now. It's build up, swing, use some skills, basically try to get your dominance pressured on someone. And Toy Agumon says, look, the only way you're getting me off the board right now is with this skill, because I'm restanding and it's about to be right now. So that guy right there is amazing. Plus, in combination with, I'm going to bounce over a little bit, in combination with Toy Agumon and Megidramon is amazing. It allows you to attack with your Mega and become a very aggressive and defensive capability on your board. So that right there is amazing. Going into the new rookie that just got released in BT7 also, which is part of the X Antibody package, Dorugoramon. His skill is on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and add one Digimon with X Antibody in his type and one Kota Demono card from among them to your hand and place the rest to the bottom of your deck. He is amazing, especially with its inheritable. Once per turn, when you place a card under this Digimon's Digivolution cards, gain 1 memory. So the ruling just got announced not too long ago that if a skill such as such as Dorugoramon, which says when digivolving, place a black card with X antibody into his source, and he becomes, immune to destruction abilities and DP minusing. When Dorumon gets placed under him, he still works. Most people would think that the Dorumon has to already be there. Well, the rulings already got announced that when you place him under him, after you resolve Dorugoramon's skill, the Dorumon skill will activate, gaining you that 1 memory. So that would allow you to extend your plays, such as, let's say that you had your tamer out there that puts you to 3, and then you digivolved with Dark Tyrannomon. Dark Tyrannomon takes you from 3 to 1. Then you digivolve Dorugoramon. It will typically take you from 2 to 1, and your turn will end. But with that skill from Dorumon, you place him under the source, you gain that 1 memory back, digivolve again with Dorugoramon, putting them to 3, and it protects Dorugoramon into the next following turn. So you don't have to worry about him getting Gaia Force or anything like that. So it does allow you to extend your plays, far beyond that you would typically do. Next is Sunrazimon. At first, I was just kind of like, I don't want to play this guy. But then I really started seeing the potential that this guy had. And it's really that piercing aspect and also the source of being able to gain that security. So on both sides, whether his main skill or his inheritable, works when your Digimon's DP is 13 or higher, which is great. If it's on the board and your Digimon's DP is 13 or higher, he gives that Digimon piercing. If it's in the inheritable, he gives that Digimon security +1. So beyond these 3 rookies allows you to play in any way that you deem is necessary. Such as, if you need to play a little bit more defensive, I'll go Toy Agumon. If you need to be a little more aggressive, Sunrazimon. Unless I need to be memory efficient, I typically would hold off, digivolving my Digitama with Dorumon, because I want to place it into the source later to get that skill. You can't place Toy Agumon into the skill, right? So you can get multiple different rookies into the source and utilize their skills to the fullest potential. But not only that, if you already have a rookie, then there's no reason really to place the Dorumon under there. Save as many X antibodies into your hand so you can use it later for a skill. So now this is a little bit more for me when it comes to the champions. Like I said, it's based on my playstyle. I'm a defensive person. So I like to have as many defensive options as I possibly can. But not only that, it's more of a reaction type deal also. I like for my security to be my defense as well, as much as I possibly can. So let's look at my first line of defense, which is Mechanorimon. He's a blocker, he can attack, but on my opponent's turn, when he deletes an opponent's Digimon and survives, he's unsuspended. So we're going into the age of hybrids, and most hybrids stop at 5 DP. Some go to 6, some go to 7. But when you start to get rushed and people need to chip some of these, damage security off of you, Mechanorimon is that guy who's going to stop them. He's a hard play cost of 4, which is very cheap, almost, just 1 point more than a rookie, and he's just as strong as, a champion, or almost, to a low cost, ultimate. So he's very versatile in defense, and he's very versatile in one other aspect. If your opponent puts you at like 2, and you're like, how can I choke my opponent? I don't really have too many options. I really don't want to play down a rookie. You can digivolve Mechanorimon on top of a rookie, putting you from 2, putting them to 1, and he's still a defensive, type Digimon, especially if he's under Pokemon, so he will do his job. Moving on from there is Shademon. I know everyone's probably going to go like, why Shademon? Why Shademon? Well, think about it like this. Let's look at some of the decks that are in the format right now, especially yellow hybrids. They're smacking at your security, but before then, they're probably wiping your board. So having a little bit of defense that's smacking off of your security will probably be the difference between death and you know, winning the game. Right now, I even heard like a couple of streams earlier from hosting, um, you know, a tournament, listening to other streams, watching mines, watching comments on other YouTube videos. People even said, you know, what's the use of playing blockers? What's the use of playing blockers? Well, this is the reason. Because people are not playing blockers, they're more focused on offense. Having a little bit of defense holds them up. What's the only way to get a blocker off the board outside of effects? Battle. So unless you pay to get them away, you're going to have to fight me, which slows you up a little bit from smacking into my security. Now, I had a couple of times fighting yellow hybrids, and Shapemun ended up being the difference between me winning and losing in the game. I'm not saying he will always be there, but I like the opportunity and the chances that it can be there. So I'd rather have it and wish I had it than not have it and wish I had it. I think that's how that saying goes. You know, have it then not need it, and need it not have it, that type of thing. You know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm getting at. So, moving from there, Dorugoramon. Dorugamon. I probably butchered it, but okay. The perfect thing about this guy is that he has the blocker skill built in, and I love it. Because, like I said, I'm a defensive person, so the moment I see the word blocker on something, I'm just kind of like, yeah. So, his skill is, while you have another Digimon in play with X antibody in its traits, or a card with X antibody in its traits that's in his Digivolution sources, he gains blocker. That is just flat out amazing. All turns while this Digimon has X antibody in its traits, it gains 1000 DP. That is amazing. So you can stack as many of these inheritables under Dorugoramon, and he becomes a beat stick. Not only that, that defensive capability of him being 12 or 13 naturally on your opponent's turn, meaning they have to, you know, work a little bit maybe to get him off the board. You know, put some inheritable, you know, power-ups inside their Digimon sources in order for them to beat over you or even crash. So this right here is something I'm testing on, which is Dark Tyrannomon. There are some other ideas I'm thinking about swapping him out with, but for right now, I like him because he's a blocker, of course, but also because of that cheap Digivolution of 1, which allows me to, you know, manipulate the memory a little bit and allow me to make a little bit more, you know, different plays if I need to, such as what I mentioned earlier with the Dark Tyrannomon, the Dorugoramon, and the Dorumon. And that, so far, right now, is my champion lineup. It's, you know, very simple. It has a job, and the defense mechanisms are at that bottom part, right in the champion area. So it's not too much I have to, you know, work out of the way to commit. If I need blockers, you know, I just hard play, you know, a rookie, or I hard play, you know, Mechanoramon, then I Digivolve on top of the rookies, like, you know, Dorumon's on play skill, I go ahead and get that real quick, and then I Digivolve and make it into a blocker. So you get all those, you know, those benefits. Saranzimon is already on the board, you swing with your Mega, it does its job, it does piercing, and then right after you go like, okay, cool, now I need to swap to defense, because now it's going to be my opponent's turn, I'm done with my offense. I'm going to Digivolve on top of Saranzimon with Dark Tyrannomon to leave my opponent at 1, or Shapemon Digivolve and leave him at 2. You know, you got your, you know, your different paths that you can take. So going into the ultimates, now this is where it's going to get a little bit diverse from everyone else, because I think most people's builds play the Dorugoramon and just plays the Warmonzimon. So right now what I play is Gogmamon. The reason why he's in here, because at first I had trouble with Craniumon, and not in the sense that you would think. He does his job with protecting all my blockers, but I would like for him to be useful outside of that. So I said, how can I make him a little bit more useful? Which I decided to put Gogmamon in within the deck, which will make Craniumon, for one, a 13k attacker or defender. But not only that, if I have the source of Saranzimon under him, he becomes security +1. Or if I have Saranzimon on the field, he gains piercing. So I'm able to utilize my Craniumon in more ways than just, you know, him protecting my blockers. But not only that, it gives Gogmamon, I mean, not Gogmamon, it also gives Dorugoramon that same ability also. and that power also transfers to my level 7s. So that utilization is just very great with him. But not only that, on some situations, I found out that my opponent will attack with, for example, like Kaiser Greymon, and I can't get him off the board right now because maybe I'm behind on turns, and Gogmon can boost himself up for each source that gets shot out. 2, 4, 6. 6 onto that 7 is 13. 13 beats over that 12, and he's just right out of the way. So he can fight a Mega at ultimate level, getting rid of the threat. Then afterwards, I can Digivolve past my turn with Craniumon or Dorugoramon, and that 6 stays on top of him until the end of my opponent's next turn, which is a defensive mechanism. So the only way for them to really get him off the board is via an ability, or they really have to jump themselves up, So right now, I play him at 2. The next one is Dorugoramon. He likes one of the X antibodies that came in the set. His skill is when Digivolving, you may place one of black card with X antibody. It has to be a black. He's very specific. With X antibody and his traits into the bottom of his Digivolution sources, to prevent effects from deleting it or reducing its DP until the end of your opponent's turn. This card has won me so many games against Yellow Hybrid. It makes no sense whatsoever. I think this card is just the best and needs to stay, and X antibody builds from here on out. The Dorugoramon skill of the Inheritable is while this Digimon has X antibody in his traits against security +1. So along with the Saranzimon and him, you can hit somebody's security for, minimum, if you have both of these, 3. And the more you stack under him, he's just, he can one-shot if he really wanted to. Or if you really need to, you can, and if you have the memory, you can Digivolve on Dorugoramon. Digivolve with Dorugoramon, go into Dorugoramon, do a couple of, battles with, your rookies and your ultimates and him. Then in your turn, going into one of the Omnimons. Guess what? The Omnimon is still protected by Dorugoramon's ability until the end of your opponent's turn. So in your next following turn, you're able to utilize your Omnimon, such as Omnimon Swords or Omnimon Swords Defeat. So that is amazing. Now, Begidramon. Same thing earlier with the reboot with Toy Agumon, gives you that nice defensive capability of being able to reboot and become a blocker. But not only that, the nastiest thing I've ever done so far, and I think every other black player can, agree, is having Megadramon under another Mega with Craniumon on the board. That's 2 threats. That's not that easy to get off the board. So the nastiest thing I've done so far is have X antibody with Megadramon under him and Craniumon sitting to the side with the Mechanorimon on the board. That is just crazy, and people would just almost feel like they want to scoop because there's really no way of getting this guy off the board. X antibody could have sources such as Dorugoramon, which gives him 1000 DP, or and reboot at the same time, so it's just making him just extremely hard to get off the board. And then even if they try to Waveland's Breath him, he's probably 16, maybe 17. You can't Gaia Force him because Craniumon's being protecting him. So the only way to get him really off the board is probably to target Craniumon first and then come to him, but then the threat is still going. You just paid to get the Cranium off the board. Depending on how much you gave me, I go back into another Craniumon. Now you get the threat still back there. So, great guy, great guy. So moving into Craniumon. I'm not going to stick on him for too long, and everyone knows what he does. He's a blocker, and in all turns, he protects your blockers from being deleted by our opponent's card effects. Having him on the board and setting up while playing against Yellow Hybrids is great. The only way for them to really get them off the board is just to try to beat over them. Because I think their 6-player option card kills anything level 5 or lower based on how many hybrids or tamers they have on the board. So if you're just saying, hey, I know what's going to happen, I know their game plan, I played them a lot, while they're setting up to attack me to end the game, I'll set up to defend myself for that end game, while getting ready myself to, deal a very good blow to them with, Dorugoramon. And this right here will give you that sensation of I'll be okay when it's time for them to start playing. And that makes a significant difference, and I think you guys should, try it out and see for yourself, playing a little bit more defensive style with the Dorugoramon package. So, going out from there, the big guy himself, Dorugoramon. He is... I know a lot of people say in the next set for BT7, that's when antibodies really start popping off, so on and so forth. Because I believe it's when they'll start really playing Alphamon and the other level 6 that makes him restand. I am still going to probably try my best to keep Dorugoramon within the deck, only because it's a very good control card. This card not only destroys 2 Digimon on the board whose DP is equal to or less than how many cards is in his source when he attacks, but he also refills his source when he attacks. When attacking, once per turn, you may place 1 card with X antibody and its traits from your hand to the bottom of this card Digivolution cards to delete up to 2 of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost less than or equal to this Digimon's Digivolution sources. The aggressiveness, the control that this card has, I don't think it should be, ignored, even in the next set. This card will keep its usage to allow you to keep control over your opponent. Especially because of the next part of his skill, which is right above it. Your turn, for each card with X antibody and its traits, this Digimon's gets 1000 DP. This card will naturally, majority of the time anyway, be swinging 13 and above. There's not a lot that's going to, destroy this guy, unless it's, a card ability. Maybe some level 5s based on what's in your source. Not level 5, some level 7s based on what's in your source. But majority of the time, this guy is going to be swinging well over everything that is in there. He naturally protects himself on offense when it comes to, crashing into, DP versus DP. And not only that, he gets rid of threats that's really on the board, especially blockers. If you don't want those blockers there, they're gone. He just, gets rid of them. This card is very, very, very strong, and I think it should not be undermined even in the next set. Especially it should not be undermined in this set. Going into the icing of the cake, the level 7s. So I play an Omnimon package, and you'd probably go like, why are you playing an Omnimon package? It looks a little clunky, especially since you're not playing, 14, 16 rookies, and you're not playing 4 Kododamonos, and so on and so forth. Well, after playing the original build that I had, which was Dorugoramon and Alphamons, because, I mentally was just kind of like, put a lot of X antibody stuff as possible, so I can always have it. I started realizing that majority of the time I had everything that I needed, and I didn't need to fish for anything more. If I needed an X antibody, I just made decisions along the way to digivolve on something else and keep the X antibodies to myself. When it comes to Dorugoramon, his one attacking skill doesn't check for how many X antibodies is in your source. His destruction skill just checks for how many cards is in your source. So as long as you have an X antibody at the time of placing it in, you get to destroy anything from that range of, how much cards in the source. The only thing that matters about how many cards is in his source is his first skill, when it checks to see how many cards of X antibodies there, then he gains that DP. But outside of that, you can strategically play your game any way you want based on what you have. Whether it's going offense with the Saranzimon and everything else, or being defense with the Toyagomon and the Gogomon and so on and so forth. So, the other part about it is that I'm placing cards of X antibody within my source. Now, let's look at Omnimon's source. When digivolving, trash the top 3 cards of your deck. Then you may play up to 2 black and or purple Digimon cards with a play cost 8 or less from your trash without paying the memory cost. That part right there allows me to play a little bit more defensive, but not only that, it allows me to do a setup play, which is if I need to search for the X antibody Omnimon, I can play 2 Duromons. Or if I need to play a little bit more defensive, I can play Meganorimon or Dorugoramon, or what have you. This right here is just a very good card. Or you need to play Ultimate Setup for your Mega for next turn. This is a really good card, and I think you should play it. I know a decent 1 or 2 in any black deck. It's a very strong unit. But the most important part of his skill that I love is the when attacking part. When you may return one level 6 card in this Digimon's Digivolution cards to the owner's hand to delete one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon with a play cost 12 or less. Because X Antibody has the ability to place black level 6s that are X Antibody into your source with skill, you have more chances of using Omnimon Source's skill. That's nuts. This turn I can attack. I can set up a level 5 on Digivolution. Then on the very next turn I can attack Omnimon Source, bounce it back, Digivolve, add my Craniumon back if I ended up, Digivolving on Craniumon on top of Dorugoramon. The Dorugoramon skill previously probably already put a Dorugoramon under there. So you have two choices of what you want to get back, depending on what the state of the game is. Or if Dorugoramon was the primary level 6 that you Digivolved on top of, now you maybe have two Dorugoramons. So you swing with one, get it, put it on top of Dorugoramon, then on the next following turn you swing with Omnimon Source again, and then you just reuse the skill again. That's just amazing. And then guess what? The new Dorugoramon that's on the ultimate to the side can take that level 6 that just got back from on the Omnimon Source and just reuse it again. That's just bonkers. But here's the other awesome part about it. Omnimon X Antibody is an X Antibody. He can be searched and he can also be tucked inside sources. Not only that, because he's an X Antibody, he uses all the sources. It's freaking nuts. Think about it. The two sources that can be utilized by Omnimon X Antibody is Dorugoramon. He can naturally become a 16, a 17, or how many you got under him, 18, 19, who knows? And he can delete anything when he attacks whose DP is equal to or less than his DP. Bro. Nuts. Now let's go over here and look at Dorugoramon. He can use that as well. While this Digimon has X Antibody in his traits, gain security +1. You can't tell me that's not nasty. You can't tell me that's not nasty. That's amazing. So, he can Digivolve. Your Digimon with Omnimon in his name can Digivolve into this Digimon from your hand for a memory cost of 3, ignoring this Digimon's Digivolution requirements. So it doesn't even matter if it's Omnimon Swords, Omnimon Swords Defeat. I think the other one is Omnimon Alter S. Whichever one that you feel like you want to place in the deck. He Digivolves on top of every last Omnimon that are out for a cost of 3. But here we go. When attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a DP less than or equal to this Digimon's DP. Remember earlier, you power this thing up, he's deleting everything. On attack. Get that blocker out my way, security +1. Get that blocker out my way, security +1. And you just keep doing it, just keep doing it. Now, the best part about his skill, the same thing I reminded you earlier about Omnimon Swords and the Dorugoramon. Well, if you don't rip out any sources for Omnimon Swords, Omnimon X Antibody uses it in a defensive way. When your opponent's Digimon attacks, you may trash 2 of this Digimon's Digivolution cards to end the attack. So typically, when you're playing the game, you would have your level 2, your 3, your 4, your 5, your 6, and then the Omnimon. That's 6 cards. But now let's take it up a notch. Dorugoramon used the skill earlier, putting 1 card in. Then Dorugoramon placed the card in. So now you have 8 sources, I'll say at the bare minimum. Now you're blocking 1, 2, 3, 4 swings than the natural 3 that Omnimon would typically block. And sometimes, especially based on this meta, that can be the determining factor if you win or lose. This guy is amazing. So, moving into the last Omnimon Swords D. At first, I had him at one way back when I first built the deck. But then I really started noticing that I'm in a tamer hybrid meta. And not only do I need him to come out of the security so I can be a little more aggressive, but I also need to get rid of some of the problems. Omnimon Swords D will not stop, it will not hurt the yellow hybrid players too much, but he does hold them back a little bit, just a tad bit, because that's one less tamer they have to work with, and I think that's just really great. It's a very good utility. It digivolves for 3, depending on how you are, memory manipulating. You can keep your opponent at a very low number and have a very big level 7 on the board. So, before I move on into my options, I would like to say this. One thing that I tell my team is that you have to look at, if nothing else, look at the top 3 decks that you think that you're going to not only see but have problems with. Then try to build your variation of the deck, how you like to play to fit what you think you're going to fight. Whether it's the meta, whether it's just some random thing that you think might come up, you build that deck how you feel like you're going to play it in the tournament. How you feel that you need utilities or anything else that needs to be in there. When it comes to my level 7s, the one thing I tell the team is that they're not easy getting off the board. And based on how I set up my board, you have to make a conscious decision. Handle the blockers or handle this big guy. And let's say just the big guy that are out there. There are not a lot of cards that are people using in their decks that are getting rid of your big level 7s. Gaia Force has not, probably won't see too much, showing. Maybe Raven's Breath in a yellow hybrid, maybe. But even so, reboot and it being, 16, 17 is not that easy getting off the board. You can Raven Breath it, but then you probably won't go anywhere. But not only that, because of the new addition to Black with the Dorugoramon ability, it's definitely not that easy getting these things off the board. Looking at how easy it is to remove their stuff and how easy it is to remove your stuff, you try your best to think on both ends on when you're going to be playing against these people. So, with that being said, I really feel very, very confident. I played a variation of this deck in BT6 and it did really well. The team just doesn't want me to put a video of that up because they think it was just extremely nasty, so they wanted to stay and keep it in the void. But anyway, it was not easy to remove my Digimon off the board, and I like that playstyle. I like for people to pay me to remove something, and that is one of the little things that I created with the deck. If you want to get rid of Omnimon Swords off the board, you got to pay me a little something. You want to get Dorugoramon off the board, you got to pay me a little something. You're not just going to swing into him and think he's going to leave. I got enough blockers, I got enough defensive mechanisms. He's not going anywhere. So be patient and pay me. And by paying me, you have to either pay me immediately when the turn passes over to you, or make very minimum pays. You go to 2 or 1, and then give me 7 by playing the Gaia Force or Raven's Breath. Then I'm going to make my plays. The one thing that I think everyone forgot is that one little statement or one little word that we used to use way back is statements, statement plays. And my Omnimon package is a statement play. So I make a statement, you respond. If we don't make statements and all we're doing is just playing setup, 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 no one's making a statement play. The statement play at the end of the game is like my final turn type deal. Like, I'm gonna rush you down, all this good stuff. So my statement play is going to be, bam, there's an Omnimon Swords here. Boom, next turn there's an Omnimon X antibody here. Boom, I got a Mechanorimon. Boom, I got a Craniumon. How many tamers you got? 6? Well, there's about to be a problem somewhere. Alright, so moving on to the final parts of my deck. I only play one Brave Metal, and I do not play, Infinity Flare. The reason being is because, I mentioned before, we're going into a hybrid meta. And I don't feel like flaring the freaking hybrid and going into Tamer. And being real, I ain't finna do it. I ain't that stupid. And then you're probably saying, well, there's some other decks out there. Who I'm gonna hit? Well, you got playing back in Norimon, they're gonna have all those rookies at the. I got Dorugoramon. He's my infinity flare. He's my flare. He's going to be my flare. And if it's too small, it goes to the trash. If it's too big, you get the brave metal. You being brave coming out, you be brave going to the trash. Simple as that. I only play one. The deck filters really fast to me with getting the things that you need. I end up having it. And if I don't end up having brave metal, I end up having other alternatives, which is Omnimon Swartz or Omnimon X Antibody, and that usually be enough. So going into this area right here, I'm going to talk about both of them. I don't play 4 Kodo-Daimonos, and the reason being is I feel, well, let's go off of the main part of the skill, which is reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 card with the X Antibody in its traits from among them into your hand, place the remaining to the bottom of your deck. I feel that the deck itself gives you enough X Antibodies. I don't feel like I need to keep searching these things out. Not only that, because it only searches for one particular card, which is X Antibody, I feel like I end up missing some of the other units that I need to make plays. Let's say I end up playing Kodo-Daimono, but I'm missing, a champion, for an example. And the champion that pops up is Shademon, Dark Tyrannomon. Well, it's not Dorugoramon now, the other champion, that's an X Antibody, so now they all go to the trash. If I need my memory to put me to 3 to make a play, then I would play Black Memory Boost. Black Memory Boost allows you to reveal the same amount of cards, reveal 4, and add 1 black Digimon from among them to your hand and place the rest at the bottom. Then with the delay skill, you gain 2 memory. I started thinking about this way back, and I said to myself, I think that every deck that I play will have at least 2 Black Memory Boosts and 2 Tamers at the bare minimum. The Black Memory Boost, I think, is revolutionary, and it will end up being that way from here on out. It's something that no one can really stop. Swartz Defeat can come out and kill Tamers. The Lucemon can come out and kill Digimon and Tamers, but nothing can kill the option card that's already played on the board. There's nothing preventing option cards from being played right now, that I don't think anyways. It may be 1 or 2 cards. I may be wrong. And the only way to stop or try to halt me from using the Black Memory Boost is stage hazards. I call these Digimon stage hazards. Blah, blah, blah. Stage hazards. Blah. For an example, like Craniumon. I call Craniumon a stage hazard. He's a Digimon that stays prominent on the board, and he affects the board in a way, whether it's hurtful to you or gives me protection. He's a stage hazard. And there's some Digimon that are out there, which, good list of them, that says your opponent can't gain memory outside of Tamers, or they can't reduce the cost. I call them stage hazards also. They affect the board in some type of way. And I personally believe that everyone should at least have 1 to 2 stage hazards in their deck. That ends up changing the way a game gets played from here on out, especially if it gets out there early or near the mid game. And it makes your opponent have to play around them, based on the meta anyways. But yeah, the Black Memory Boost, I figured that if I want to get myself to 3, I'll get there. The least you can give me to start my turn is 1. Black Memory Boost sets me to 3. But not only that, Black Memory Boost allows me to gain more than my Tamer usually wouldn't put me at. So if you put me at 2, my Tamer will put me at 3. But if you put me at 2, Black Memory Boost puts me at 4. So I like the versatility between them both. But not only that, if I have both of them out there, that's 5. So far, the deck feels extremely comfortable. I feel like I have everything I wanted. Now, granted, for the past couple of days, I've been feeling that, there's something more I can do to it. Because I'm a defensive style person, I have to make sure that if I do make changes, I make changes that are better for my game plan. And my game plan is very simple. I'm pretty sure you guys can eyeball it and just tell. Is to establish board presence by putting up a nice decent wall, even if it's 1 or 2 blockers, and start building up with Dorugoramon, getting into one of the Omnimons, getting to X Antibody, and then start forcing my game from there. Only because I know, or I feel, that getting rid of an Omnimon is not as easy as everyone thinks it is. And not only that, the X Antibody Omnimon can utilize all the sources. So once I get into him, it's going to be very annoying for my opponent to really start making some, plays, or even think about their game plan clearly, while they have to worry about this X antibody swinging for, 2, maybe 3 security checks while blowing up everything else. So this is my deck profile, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want any, breakdowns, want to see me make some videos with me playing it, or any questions that you have, put them in the comments below. I'll be glad, to answer them. Thank you guys for sticking around. I'm sorry for making it so long. And hopefully after training camp this weekend, I'll have a new build, and I'll record that one and give you an update. I probably won't be so descriptive of everything then, because you already got it in this video. So in the next one, I'll just probably go over some of the changes and why I make these changes. So, outside of that, thanks for hanging around again. I am Mustang of Battlecore and the Core Knights, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.